I don't want to present to the audience here that I've been successful, because I haven't. From the outside, I do have a fabulous company that's doing amazing things, and I employ people to run amazing programs, but I often wait until the last minute when something is at its need point before I action it, like similar to what we were talking about. And so I guess one thing that really needs to change in the furniture of my life, that is something that I'm really conscious of every day, is changing my, first of all, my relationship with my body. Because I know that if I have enough sleep, if I'm drinking enough water, if I'm occupying my body fully, that from that place my mind frees up. And I'm not on the survival treadmill that I'm on every single day. I'm not just barely running my business. I'm not just barely getting my kid on time to school. There is a sense of thriving that happens, and I never gave myself the permission or the expanded awareness to accept that it does actually start with the body. I just always thought that spirit was more important, development was more important, the way my mind works, how I looked, how I presented, my level of confidence, my level of ability. That was my focus for most of my life. And now the focus is in the cells in my body, from that very deep internal level, on a physical level. Yeah, how do I get them to wake up and do what they're supposed to be doing? Because they haven't been doing what they're supposed to be doing. They've been doing the opposite of what they're supposed to be doing. You know, they've been working against me rather than with me, that's for sure, up until now.
Yeah, and you know, there's so much in that about listening to our body, isn't there?
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
I do something which maybe the listeners might do one day for themselves, and I find it really effective, is that when I feel out of my body, and I'm not really one who's really good at just sitting and meditating. I can do it if I've got a audio meditation that's guiding me, but I prefer a moving meditation, and what I do is something that I call a stroll for the senses and the soul. So what I do is I go for a walk, and before the walk I set a very, like an intention of something, that just a question, that's something that I've been pondering or something like that, and that I'm unclear about, and then I let it go completely. Then I go for my walk, and I am completely in my body, but not just to the cellular level, but to every sense in my body. So I am aware of what am I smelling, what noises am I hearing, what am I seeing, what am I tasting, how am I feeling. So every sense in my body is being used, and I go for only maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And sometimes it's just on the pavement, and all of a sudden I might see a note on the floor, or a sign on the written in graffiti on a stop sign, or whatever it is that I may not have otherwise noticed. And it's almost like it's a message for the question that I set out in the beginning.
Yes, and this is going back to what I was saying before about this core belief that I work with, which is that the true self is constantly orchestrating experiences in your life for the one purpose of you coming closer to you. And the vessel to which the true self gives you those messages is through presence. And so you're talking about walking with presence, and simply in the act of feeling all of your senses and deeply listening, even if it's just for 15 minutes a day on a walk, then there that communication starts. And, you know, even more than that, I think on a cellular level, for me, having a cancer diagnosis was about me not listening for such a long period of my life. Obviously, it's not just that. I mean, biologically, I have cancer in my dad's side of the family. I was potentially predisposed. But why the early onset? I mean, I'm 30. I was 38 when I was diagnosed last year. And I know that due to this feeling in my body of stuckness, of this cesspool that had no flow and vitality, I know that if I did have a predisposition, that it was a good time for it to come in. You know, for cancer to come in, it had every opportunity because I gave it that, because I wasn't home in the body. And one of the things I picked up from the Ian Gawler Foundation when I stayed there on retreat, and they taught me lifestyle medicine on how to deal with chronic illness, was this one quote that was said on the first day from Eckhart Tolle. And he wrote in his book, The Power of Now, he wrote, "The more consciousness you bring into the body, the stronger your immune system becomes. If the master is not present in the house, all kinds of shady characters will take up residence there." And it was so profound and so true, because I was not listening to the body and I was away from home all the time. Call that being in my mind all the time, or being more concerned with matters that were above the belly, you know, matters of presentation, about confidence, about being in the world, of doing things, the action of it all. That these matters that were inside, that were within, that were in the home and the house of my body, were simply not being attended. And so it wasn't being checked. It's like a small child in the corner of the room, like cancer cells. They're misbehaving. And sometimes you don't need to rouse on the child. All you need to do is look at it. Just look and give presence, and the child corrects their own behaviour. I feel like cancer is something similar like that, you know. I just wasn't looking, and it's misbehaving. My cells are working against me in the body, and I needed to look deeper. And now my eyes are turned a lot within, and the presence, that's what meditation is all about, giving presence to your green zone. The Ian Gawler Foundation call it the green zone. So it's that part of your body that lets your hair grow, that beats your heart, all those things that happen automatically in the body. That's called the green zone. And a lot of us don't exist within the green zone. We don't allow ourselves to listen and get into that green zone. And the avenues in are presence, walking meditation, sitting meditation, listening, taking time to be slow, because we're spending a lot of time in what is called the red zone, so in the mind. And, you know, doing a lot of that and being away from your house, as Eckhart Tolle would say, means that you're not tending to your house. And so you're not giving your body the chance to do what it was born to do, which is to be well.
And to be.
Yes.
To be well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's so true. And, you know, it is hard, and all these things, the reality is, you know, because I always like to, you know, come back to what is actually happening for people out there as well. And all of this is ideal and real and makes sense and has so much truth. But when it's married with what is happening in society and life and the busyness and the championing of the busyness and everything that comes with that, it's very hard to do the pausing, the stopping, the leaning back, the being without feeling like we should be doing.
Yes, because it's
without the guilt, without, you know, with the fact that the acceptance with being. And I do feel that slowly there is more conversations about this.
Yeah, mindfulness.
And mindfulness, exactly, and it's becoming quite common, mindfulness in companies.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, the next episode I've got a guest and we're talking all about mindfulness.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, it is happening, but at the same time, achieving more, being more busy, being overstimulated is also happening.
Well, it's just become the factory default, you know, for the society in which we live, and now we actually are learning that we have to fight for health. We have to fight for wellness, which means we have to give it space, and we have to stand in our sovereignty and make the space. And you got to push. You got to push outwards for that. It's not just going to come. And so I suppose it becomes, how invested are you in it? And for a lot of us, including me, I wasn't invested in my body. I wasn't invested in health because I didn't see that there was a problem. So the inquiry is there something that's not right? Is there something that's not this? Without explanation, maybe the feeling that is your life on a very basic level, all stripped back, to come into that, and then from that place emerge into, am I sold that I do need to create the space and time? And until we are, and we get our own research done, then maybe we don't create that space and time. It's about investment, isn't it? And the best thing you can invest in is your body.
Totally. Right? Yeah. So, Nathalie, you're still just coming off your medical intervention with your breast cancer. It's all still quite fresh. And you have that, from what you've shared today and the other conversations I've had with you, you have that inner motivation, discipline and commitment to yourself and your body and your well-being and your health. As you go through remission and you're further away from the diagnosis and the treatment, and you're back living your, let's call it normal for the sake of it, life, which is forever changed, how do you foresee yourself continuing that same effort of motivation and commitment and discipline and not falling back to possibly some of your old ways?
Gosh, this is such a great question, because we all do it, right? We all learn something big or have an epiphany about life, and then 5 days later we're eating McDonald's again, or we're creating the same pattern for an existing belief system. The hope is that the belief system within me has changed so profoundly that the actions on top of it will begin to adjust themselves. I feel like the why of the cancer, if I understand it so fully, that the belief can be touched, the belief can be changed. The previous belief was I don't need to pay much attention to my body. The new belief is the body is the barometer of my soul. It is the home within my house, and it is worthy of my care and attention, and for me to stay at home within it and to occupy it fully. The truth is, remission is where the work begins.
Yeah.
It's the beginning, and it's going to be harder, potentially, than the places in between the cancer diagnosis and the treatment.
Wow, that's a amazing response. It is. It's all about our beliefs, isn't it? The way that we behave comes down to what we believe. And if we can change the belief system, we can really change the choices that we make. So, yeah, I mean, you're such an inspiring woman. I mean, to get a diagnosis like this and to look for the positives, to look for the gifts and to look for the opportunities, and not just to find them, which is hard enough as it is, but to then take what you find and action those things is truly inspirational and remarkable. And if anybody who's listening today, whether it's a cancer diagnosis or another illness, or whether it's a breakup or a death in the family, or whatever feels massive and like it's impossible or unfair or any of those things, if you can come back to even just think of this conversation and your story and how positive you've been
Do you
to be
know-
able to do this. It's amazing.
And there's one last thing to be said.